Doug, how did you find carnivore?
I found Carnivore, Dave, through like a lot of the interviews you do and a lot of the people you have on your channel is through being ill, being sick. And I felt, we all end up going to a grave at some point in time in our life. But that slow walk and being able to stop and smell the roses along the way was turning into a fast run, and it actually felt like it was turning into a sprint to the grave, Dave. Just to add some context to that, so I grew up on a mixed farm on the prairies here in Saskatchewan, the neighboring province. And we always raised our own food, whether it be beef, pork, chicken, eggs, vegetables. So, but anyways, in 2016, um, I started having some problems with my my right side, and that when I was running, and that I'd get a bit of a pain, and a bit of a shortness of breath. And so eventually it was like, this is annoying, and didn't really know what was going on, because it was atypical. It was on my right side. So I made appointment with my doctor, and it's kind of interesting in that, because the day I make my appointment, I go in, and of course, he's missing a button on his shirt, and he had popped a button, and he was a bit overweight, and that. So we had a bit of a conversation about that, and had a few laughs and chuckles and that. And I told him what was going on, and he looks at me, says, I'm a cautious man. He says, I'm going to send you for a stress test. So in 2017, I go to the hospital where I was actually working at the time. So I know most of the nursing staff, and a lot of the doctors and that, from working there as well. So I go there, and I get ready for my stress test, and they get me all hooked up, and they start the treadmill, and I don't even take 6 steps, and he's yelling, "Stop! Stop! Stop! Sit down!" And that, so they stop everything, and I step off, and I sit down, and he tells me, he says, this isn't good. So this is bad. He says, there's, so you might have a heart attack. So I sit there, and I said, well, she says, we're admitting you to the hospital. And I said, well, okay, I get that. But do you mind if I go home and just grab some toiletries, and that, since I'm going to be here for a while? She says, no, you're not going anywhere. And he makes a nurse stay there with me. She says, he doesn't go anywhere. You will stay with him. And so it's like, okay. And so I phoned my wife at that time, and she's out at one of our provincial parks with a friend, and I tell her what's going on, and like, she's like, don't joke around about these kind of things. And it's like, I'm not joking. This is what's happening, and I'm going to be staying in the hospital. I need you to go home, grab me some things, and bring him to the hospital. So I'm in the hospital for probably 3 or 4 days before they finally transfer me to a place called Calgary, and we're at the hospital there, where they do an angiogram first of all, and they kind of figure out where the blockages are, and then they do the angioplast. And I have 2 stents put in my heart at that time. And the first stent, I didn't really feel anything, but the second stent, I could feel when they put it in, and I could just feel that pain on my right side again. And I says, as they insert it, and said, "Oh, that's the one." I said, "That's the one that has been causing me all the issues and that." So when I look back at that, Dave, and I start to think about some of these things, and you start to realize that it's only circumstantial, but I have a plugged tear duct on my left eye. I also have what's called Viking's hand. So you look at my hand, you see how crooked it is, and I can't straighten it out. So there's a medical name for it, which escapes me right now. But these are some of the things that have started to happen even prior to these things. So I'm getting blockages. I'm getting buildup of calcium, and that in other places is as well. So you start to, after you do some research on that, you start to think, all these things, that these little things that are happening seem to be building up to bigger things that are happening. So, anyways, just to continue on here, so about 20, so this is 2017. So in about the, and I might get some dates wrong here, but so anyways, as we go on, and that I'm feeling absolutely tired all the time, and even though I've had these two stents put in, and I do have other um, minor blockages, but not enough to add stents into.
And at this stage, they've put you on statins and
So
things
yes,
like that?
so at this stage, I'm on a statin, I'm on a blood pressure medication, and I'm on an aspirin. And I also want to just skip back a little bit, Dave. So, but when I was in the hospital, that they had me on a medication that I already have a fairly low heart rate. So I was anywhere between 58 and 64, just from all the running that I did and that. But at some point in time, when I would be trying to sleep, my heart rate would go down to like 24 or 25 beats per minute. And it was like, all of a sudden I'd just be gasping, and the nurses would be coming running into to the room, and just to check on me, just to make sure that I was okay. And you want to try to get some rest, but you can't get any rest whatsoever just because of that. So um, the next day after that happened, and I said, I can't take this anymore because this is what it's causing. And the pharmacist, he's trying to explain to me, well, you only got so many beats in your heart, and it's like, yeah, I realize that, but do you know how many I have? And if you keep giving me this medication, says, I'm just going to not wake up. My heart's probably just going to stop at some time. So I said, I'm not taking this anymore. And so with that was the end of our conversation, and they stopped that medication for me. So now moving on. So I've got my stents in, and I'm on three different medications for heart disease that I have. Yeah, actually, I'm on four because they also give you a medication that to make sure that your body doesn't reject the stents that are in your heart, and that for, I think it was for 6 months. Anyway, so I continued on with that as well. So, anyways, so I'm still feeling tired and that, and eventually I go back to the doctor, and my previous family physician is now gone from that clinic, and I'm dealing with a different physician, and they do some tests and that, and they figure out that I have the thyroid issue, so I have a uh, a low thyroid. So I'm hypothyroid, and so they give me some medication for that. So now I've gotten rid of the other. So now I'm on four medications. I then go back again, and this time I have a new family doctor, and that they've replaced the old one, but now I have a new one, and I'm having a tough time urinating, and so now they put me on another medication because I have an enlarged prostate, plus another one for my bladder. And as we progress in that through this, eventually I'm on two medications for my bladder, and I go through all the protocols. I go to see a urologist, and the urologist explains that you're probably going to be on these medications forever, and we'll just keep monitoring things, and that, and the same with the thyroid, and I do have a family history on the female side of my family, and that have had thyroid issues as well. So, anyways, in 2020 now, so this is from 2017 to 2020, I'm diagnosed with skin cancer as well. So I have a blastoma cell carcinoma on my back, which they remove. They don't get it all at that time, and nobody calls me back to say, hey, we need you to come back in again for um, further surgery, and that to remove the rest of this cancerous cells that are still in your body, and that. So, anyways, we're actually moving now from the place where we were in southern Alberta to Edmonton, where I live now. So in 2021, and I have to thank my daughter-in-law, one of the girls that she went to med school with. she was able to convince her to take us on as her patients, both my wife and myself. So we'll go to see her, and she hooks me up with a dermatologist, and the dermatologist actually then removes the rest of the cancerous cells that were around this blastoma, and with this basal cell spread, this carcinoma that I had. So, anyways, I go on and that, but through all this, um, when I would sprint, especially, that I all of a sudden my big toe on my left foot would hurt, as well as every once in a while my back my lower back would just be in such pain, but my big toe especially, and I actually missed several days of work because of this. And so I would just it's just getting old and take some Advil and Tylenol and wait a couple of days and it would get better and then I go back to work again and then the one time now I'm living here and in Evanston and the I sprinted one day again at work we were doing training and I sprinted and my toe I couldn't even put my boot on. So I go to a walk-in clinic, which is in the neighborhood here, and talk to the doctor there, and he looks at it. He does a few tests and that. And I said, "Well, do I have gout?" And he goes, "Nope, you have inflammation." I said, "Well, like, where is it coming from?" And he's like, "Don't know. You just have it." It's like, okay, so you trust that everything's going. This is just the way it is. You're getting older. Life sucks. This is kind of just how you go. I'm saying I'm starting to run now to my grave, and it feels like I'm starting to sprint. And that so moving along here. We were actually at um, my wife's cousin's cabin at a lake in Saskatchewan, and I'm doing some exercises, and I hurt my back, and I'm walking like an L, so I'm walking like this. I can't stand up. And so eventually we come home. I go to a chiropractor, and she kind of straightens me out, and it feels good. But like about 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm back at the same thing again. So I go see her again, and she looks at me and says, like this is chronic, and it's just something that you're going to have to live with. And I looked at her and I says, I'm not living with this. This is absolutely nuts. Says this shouldn't be happening. I'm taking all my medication. I'm following what I'm supposed to be following and it should be happening. And at that time as well, I'm starting to feel like my insides, all my organs, are melting down. It's just a weird feeling, Dave. It just felt like everything was turning into mush inside of me. So, anyways, I said I'm not doing this. There's got to be something better. So I go on to the internet and I start googling. And I come across Dr. Sten Ekberg, and he's talking about the ketogenic diet and fasting. And yeah, I do a few more. I listen to a lot of his stuff before I decide to do anything. So I'm back working out and just kind of walking, doing a little bit of running and that. And so I spend quite a few hours over the next probably 2 months listening to him. Every once in a while, Dr. Eric Berg and also Dr. Jason Fung as well. And I decide, okay, I'm going to start to cut out the carbs. And growing up, and I'll tell you another story about this. So eating porridge in the morning, that was a big thing because it sticks to your ribs and just get you kind of going and that for the day. So this is going to take you back to the 1995, 96. So the job I was doing back then, every 5 years we had to have a medical. So I go in for my medical, and my family doctor says, your cholesterol is a little high. I think you should be taking a statin. And that was back then. And I said, well, I really don't want to. But he says, I says, here, I've got some stuff that I've gotten from the drug rep here. You can just take those home and that and see what that does. And I said, no, says I don't really want to do it, but I'll take them and that because he like we were friends actually. So I take them home with me and that. But I says, I'm going to do this on my own. So I ate porridge for 30 days every day. So, and I don't know if it was porridge or if it was the brown sugar I put on my porridge or the cream or the banana sometimes used on it. But anyways, I lowered my cholesterol. So I go back in 30 days later and I get I have my blood work done again, and he's excited, he's happy. You've lowered your cholesterol, and it's like, great. And he said, how did you do it? And I said, I just ate porridge for 30 days. And he just kind of looks at me and that was like, so that's what I did. And so we just moved on from there. So anyways, this kind of reminds me of Dr. Nick Norwitz's Oreo study, and that's kind of reminds me of that. So yeah, so I got rid of the a lot of the carbs and the sugars in my diet at that time, and then I decided I'm going to try some fasting. And my wife started doing some fasting with me at that time also, and she had kind of started reducing the carbs and sugars and that in her diet, and but we were still eating lots of plants and fruits and vegetables and meat as well. So I started doing some fasting. So I did it. We both did a 24-hour fast, and it was like, oh, this feels really good. And we both lost a little bit of weight. And so a few weeks later, we decided, we're going to do a 72-hour fast. That was a little bit more difficult for sure, but we did a 72-hour fast. And um, I went from about 200, I was about 210 pounds at that time, down to about 195 after that 3-day fast. And I says, this is incredible. And I started to feel so much better as well. So I continued watching these three individuals and the content that they were producing and that. But then I came across this other crazy guy called Dr. Anthony Chafee. And his one was plants are trying to kill you. And it's like, huh, this is interesting. And I listened to it, and it made so much more sense, and that as well. So, and this is maybe a little bit gross for some of your viewers, but eating all the plants that I was eating, and that when I would go to the bathroom and have a bowel movement, probably 7 out of 10 times I'd be plugging the toilet, and it's like, this is crazy. This shouldn't be happening. But anyways, it's like, mom, this is I'm going to the washroom and I'm having good bowel movement, so this is how it probably should be. And but I'm at my son and my daughter-in-law, and as I mentioned earlier, she's a doctor and he has his PhD, he's a researcher, and we're having supper and I'm not having plants, and why aren't you having any supplements? I said, well, plants are trying to kill you. And the look I got from them was like, if that look could have killed me, I would have been dead by that, just by that look. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess I shouldn't have said that. And they kind of gave me a bit of a grilling and a hard time about that and that. So, but continuing on, I then go and I have a chat with my family doctor up here in Edmonton, and I try to explain to her, I've been doing some fasting and that, and it seems to be working and that, and she kind of mocked me a little bit and that about doing some fasting and so it's like, oh, okay, like I get it. You may not agree with me, but this is what I'm doing. And so we move on, and eventually I go back again about 6 months later, and that because that's yeah. See, at that time I had the rest of my carcinoma, my basal cell carcinoma, removed all those other cells, and now I'm asking her, said, because now I've done some research on the side effects of these 7 different medications that I'm taking, and the side effects are not good at all. And I and I asked her, said, I'd like to stop taking my medications and that I don't want to take them anymore, because I don't think that they're actually giving me the help that I need. And as a matter of fact, they may be causing more damage in my body and that to my organs and that doing the good, more harm than good. And that, and so she doesn't really care, but she says, talk to the cardiologist. So I actually have a cardiologist appointment about 3 months later, and I go to visit him and I chat with him, and I said, I would like to stop taking all these medications, and I'm starting to feel really good. Um, and he basically looks at me after about 10 minutes into our conversation, says, I haven't got time for this. I really don't care. If you don't want to take your medication, don't take it. The only thing I say is just take your blood pressure, your aspirin. That's the only one I want you to take. I said, not a problem. I won't be taking my medication anymore. I said, by the way, when I get down to 170 pounds, I'm not taking my aspirin anymore either. And he just left. Before he left, says, maybe you should have a conversation with my dietitian. And I said, if your dietitian wants to phone me, she can call me. We'll have a conversation. So, anyways, I leave from there, and a couple weeks later, I have a conversation with the dietitian, and she's not happy that I am only going to be living a carnivore lifestyle. And I kind of explained to her what it is, what I'm doing, and eventually she just says to me, well, you have to eat vegetables and plants and this because it's a social contract. And I say, social contract, what is that? What exactly does that mean? So, well, because it's how we socialize. This is how you have to eat. I said, no, it isn't. I'm not eating that way. This is how I'm going to be eating. And she says, basically, well, that's up to you. And then she goes back and said, well, can we actually talk about the fasting? I'm really interested in that. And I said, no, we're done. Our conversation is done here. And I just hung up on her, and that was kind of the end of it. So I continued on, basically eating beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, Dave, and I've felt great ever since, and that I feel so much better. I've lost about 40 pounds um, over that time frame as well.
That's from when?
So that's from about 2022 to now. And yeah, when I look back at some of the old photos, Dave, of even I'm sitting. There's one picture where we're still living down south, and that in southern Alberta. And I'm looking at the photo of me sitting at our picnic table outside, and you can just see my face is round, and it looks so inflamed and just so, yeah, just so. I look so I look really overweight, but my face is just so inflamed. Like I hit it very well because I'm very stocky and muscular, but I hit it very very well. And that, but when I look at that picture to looking at my face today, it's like, wow, what a difference. You can just see the difference, and that as well. It's absolutely incredible. But
How are you feeling when you run now?
Dave, I feel great. I work out probably on average about 5 times a week, and I usually don't go more than an hour. And in that hour, I run, I do sprinting, and I do weight do some weight training and that within there as well. Or and I usually break it up, so both aerobic and anaerobic exercise all at the same time, and I try to keep it within that hour and that as well. So I usually walk first thing in the morning. My dog or our dog gets me up usually about between 5 and 6, and I do drink coffee. It's kind of my morning routine. So I have a cup of coffee, and my dog kind of waits for me. And she knows that I have my cup of coffee. Once I'm done my cup of coffee, then I feed her, and sometimes I have to show her, listen, I still got a couple mouthfuls left in before you get your breakfast. And so once I feed her, then I might have some breakfast, just a small. Usually have a couple hard-boiled eggs, maybe a couple strips of bacon. Depends on a lot of it depends, Dave, on what I'm doing that day. Both my wife and I we officiate track and field here, and so if I'm officiating track field, I'll have a bigger breakfast because I won't eat throughout the day at all. And the lunches and suppers that we usually get are very carb heavy, and there's not anything that I want to eat. But it makes such a huge difference, Dave, as far as being. So I'm a starter, and just your observational skills and your awareness of what is taking place, your ability to just to see things and then to react to things is so much more enhanced than it would be otherwise. It's actually incredible to actually to experience that. So I do a lot of visualization and imagery as well. So both my wife and myself and my oldest boy, we shoot what's called IPSC. So it's my wife calls it's shooting on the run. So you shoot stages. So we shoot pistols, and you're shooting those pistols and at targets, and you're moving a lot of times at the same time, or you're moving into a position to shoot several targets and that as well. So it's actually wild to be able to recall things and that as well. And that after you've imaged them, so I can almost go back like after we shoot a day. I can now. I couldn't before, but I can now go back and actually look or remember all the stages that I shot, just how I could have maybe done better or improved them. I'm not that great of a shooter, but you can still do these things, and you can say, "Yeah, I could have did better here. Could have did better there," and you could actually visualize and image how you could have done a lot better. So it's been interesting, as well as so this is uh, there are quite a few of the people that I shoot with. They see the change in myself, and they ask, what are you doing? How are you doing it? And so if they ask the question, I'll pass on some information and that to them, Dave, and that this is what I'm doing. This is what I eat. And if they're really interested, I'll say, okay, if you got your email, I'll send you an influencer that might help you as far as what you're looking to do. It's also been really interesting. So we are an older group. I don't know if you're aware of some of the things that are going on here in Canada with our gun laws and that. Um, but just chatting with some of the other shooters and that, and all of a sudden one day they're limping, or they're having difficulties with something. I just ask and say, do you mind if I ask you a personal question? Are you on any medications? What medications are you on? A lot of these guys, there's been what, three now that I've actually that I'm close to, that I've asked, and they're all taking a statin. They all are getting, and they've been taken for about 3 or 4 years, and they're all getting minor tears in one in their thigh. How do you get one in your thigh? Another one their Achilles, another one in their wrists. Their forearms. It's like, how are you getting these? And their doctors say, well, it's just age. And most of these guys are in their 40s and 50s. They're a lot younger than I am. I'm 65, Dave, and they're a lot younger than I say than what I am. And they're having these issues and these issues, and I say to them, well, you may want to look at researching the side effects of the medications that you're on, and that to get a better idea, and then actually talk to your doctor again about that. But it's been very difficult because our doctors are so ingrained in prescribing medication here, in especially here in Canada, with the socialist system that we have here for our Medicare and that we have here. But I've been very fortunate, Dave. I've been able to find a low carb doctor and a low carb cardiologist. Matter of fact, the low carb cardiologist, Dr. Blair O'Neill, he has been I think 6 years ago. Um, it's been from 6 years ago. He actually was on a podcast, a low carb podcast, and that where he's actually spoken at low carb events in the U.S. I believe before. He may have spoken at others as well, but he's actually spoken. And so it's great to have these people on side and having a better understanding as to the diet that I'm on. And
Was that just luck finding, especially the cardiologist? Was that just luck, or did
so
you seek him out?
no, well, the so we'll take a step back. So my family doctor, her and I had a. I wanted her to. I went back to her and I wanted her to do a fasting insulin. So from listening to Dr. Barry and that, I wanted her to do a fasting insulin. She refused to do it. She says the fasting insulin test doesn't provide us with any good information at all. And she said, I just came back last weekend from um, conference in Vancouver and BC and here in Canada, and she said, "No, says it doesn't." They told us that that doesn't provide us with any information. And I asked her the question, "Well, who organized this conference for you? Was it a pharmaceutical company that organized it for you?" And she didn't respond to it, and was sort of like, "Squirrel, well, I see you got some marks on your face. I think maybe we should put some freezing on there and see if we can get rid of those marks on your face." And it was like, man, this is wild. And so then I asked her the question. I said, "Well, would you help me find a low carb doctor? Because this is the way I'm going to keep eating, and I would like you to help me." She said, "Nope, I won't help you." And I said, "Well," and I'd done a little bit of research. Said, "Well, do you know that this clinic, they're a low carb clinic?" She says, "Nope, don't have never heard of them." So nope. I did all the research myself, and I actually made the phone call, and the doctor there that I spoke to and that I actually saw, and that she was nice at, because I was like, this is like, I need somebody to help me move on with this, and to give me the support that I need. And so she decided, she wasn't taking patients at that time, but she was nice enough, and that I got that she took me on as her patient. And then through her, and that she knew of, her and I had a conversation about Dr. O'Neill as well, and that because I had seen him on a couple of YouTube videos, or at least one for sure. I thought I saw him on two, and I brought the name up to her, and she says, "Yeah, I know who he is. So I'll see if I can get you off them. I'll write my letter," and that, and sure enough, I was, I'm lucky enough to have a low carb cardiologist as well. So, yeah, so it's I find myself very fortunate as far as that goes, and that's a,
Yeah, nice. So you talked about like what you have for breakfast. What are you eating throughout the rest of the day?
so I'm a bit of a snacker, Dave. I cook up some, I call them pork belly bites. So you'll get big, thicker pieces of bacon. So they're about this thick, and they're probably about this long. And so I cut them into little bite pieces, and I'll put them in. I'll salt them up and put them in the oven. So I always have those in the fridge. I'll have bacon in the fridge that I cook up, and usually hard boiled eggs as well. So I have always have that in the fridge. And cheese. I am a cheese guy. I'm fortunate enough that I can get away with eating cheese and that, and every once in a while. So I call it my cheese Oreo. So I'll take two slices of cheese, and I'll put a big thick slice of butter in between that cheese. And so that's my cheese Oreo, and that. And sometimes I'll just do that, especially when I'm shooting. It just kind of gives me that little bit of extra energy as well. So I've also made some pemmican as well. And so I will. I haven't. I just started trying it. So I'd made it about, oh God, it's got to be about 3 months ago now. And so I just had my first piece here last week. and that from the batch that I made, and it's actually pretty good. So I got some dried beef that I put into a blender and just turned it into powder. I actually put some dried liver in there as well, and then of course the tallow, and I put a little bit of honey in because just eating it by itself, it just the taste just isn't there. So just that little bit of just that little taste of honey and salt, and it just makes it taste that much better. But you can really feel it when you eat a piece. So their bars are about probably about this big, Dave. So when you eat one, and that you can actually feel the energy coming from it, and that as well. It's actually pretty cool. It's actually neat to to have and to taste. So yeah.
Right. So the only kind of formal meal you have in a day is that breakfast?
No, so then supper is usually so dinner's usually or lunch is usually like a snack of some kind, and then supper is usually a bigger meal. So I'll have a lot of times have hamburger or like hamburger meat or hamburgers or steak, and sometimes have pork chops and that as well, or a beef roast. And I eat lots of eggs, Dave. So I probably eat between 4 and 6 eggs a day as well to go with that. And then on now that Saskatoon season is here, so we can buy what's called double cream yogurt, and at one of our local farmers markets. And so I'll have a double cream yogurt and throw some Saskatoons in that and have that. So yeah, that's a bit of a dessert, and that's kind of what I consume on a daily or on a weekly basis. So yeah, one of the things, Dave, that happened to me the first week, I stopped snoring. Like I could snore wherever, however I laid in bed. If I was laying on my stomach, if I was laying on my side, if I was laying on my back, I could snore, and it stopped, and my sleep has been great. I usually get about 6 hours, sometimes 7 hours of sleep a night, but the sleep I get is great. Um, yeah, and if my dog wouldn't get me up about 5 o'clock or so, I wouldn't need to have a nap in the afternoon. But that's part of it. I just don't want to. I don't want to go back to the way I was, and that and being sick and feeling like you're actually going to die is not a fun thing, Dave, at all.
Right.
And I
And just
don't.
to confirm, you're not on any meds now? Are you
I'm
still
on
taking the aspirin or?
No, I'm on zero medications. I got down to 170 pounds. I'm back up to about 175, 180, somewhere in there. But yeah, no, I'm not taking any medications whatsoever, Dave, and it feels great. It feels absolutely fantastic. It's hard to yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice. So if you were giving someone advice about getting started with carnivore, let's say they've committed to giving it 90 days. They say, what's your advice? What's your tips? What should I do? What would, based on your experience, what would you tell them?
I would tell them no. You have to know your why is probably the biggest thing to know your why. Like, um, and then once you know your why, because this just isn't a weight loss program at all. This is something. This is a healing program. Losing weight is just a side effect of this healing um, lifestyle. Probably not a program, but this healing lifestyle. Do your research. Listen to some influencers on the internet. Hear what they have to say. Know yourself as well. Like, are you somebody who has to take it slow, or are you somebody just rip the band-aid off and go from there? There's probably, I'm just going to think here, Dave, just in my shooting community, there's probably one, two, three, four. There's about five or six people that I've had a positive influence on as far as how they've changed. They're not carnivore, but they're living more or less a keto lifestyle, and some are more or less a standard American, but they're doing a lot more fasting and that, and they just the difference that it's made in their life, and you could actually see um, just the difference that it made in them as individuals in that as well. It's great. It's great to see that they've taken this on, and they've taken a more active role in their health, and taken some responsibility for their health as well. So
That's fantastic.
yeah.
Um, so Doug, if there's if people want to reach out to you, is there any way they can get in contact?
I'm not on social media, so just my email, Dave, is what I is all I have as far as that goes. I'm not someone who I'm kind of a private individual in so many ways as well. But yeah, it took me a bit to get up the nerve to come and chat with you, and I do appreciate you taking the time and that to listen to my story and to get it out to all the people that subscribe and listen to you as well. It's yeah, it's helped a ton listening to other people's story, and just how many people have experienced very similar um, illnesses, and just similar events with their medical practitioners, and that as well is what I have, Dave. So
Yeah.
yeah, so before we go, Dave, and that I would just like to Dr. Jordan Peterson is in the hospital, and if all your viewers and that could just send their, he's a great Albertan, like myself, and he just they could all send their thoughts and prayers and that to a complete and speedy recovery from the illness that he's fighting right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope he does make a very speedy recovery.
Yeah,
Um, so I'll include your email in the show notes, Doug. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
thank you, Dave, and hopefully we get an opportunity to chat again.